wearing a t-shirt that says never made.
I believe him. I think he's telling the truth.
Bare knuckle brawler, Ultimate Fighter finalist, firefighter, family man, and a guy who never once got finished in over 20 UFC fights. 20-year career as well. Chris, lights out Lytle. Chris, it's an honor, man. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Guys, again, never been finished. Over 20-year career, only 2 doctor stoppages. Chris, why and how do you think you've been so durable throughout your career?
I think I have a rare condition called Homer Simpson syndrome. You know, you ever watch that where he's got a thicker layer of skull or something? I don't know what it is, man. I think I'm pretty lucky. Everybody's got that button you can hit on. I've never been knocked out, you know, and I've almost been put out a couple of times, just like choked out and everything, but I've been able to get out. So just a lot of work in the gym, and I like to think a lot of my mindset just, you know, not going to stop me. Hopefully that's what it is, but you never know. I don't know. Just a lot of rounds, a lot of time. I was a gym rat, brother. I never got out of shape. I was always like, I'd rather stay in shape than get in shape. So always in the gym, just constantly working.
Were you doing any other sports before starting fighting?
Yeah, man, I was an athlete. You know, I was mainly a wrestler, though. I wrestled in high school, a little bit in college. Before that, you know, I played football, played basketball, baseball, a little bit of everything. Just tried to be an athlete. And but I really found it in wrestling. That's when I really found something I love. Because, you know, it's a one-on-one sport. It's however hard you want to work, that's how good you were going to be. You know, you do that. It's not like that in football or basketball or whatever. Like, you can be great, but your team, it doesn't put forth that effort. I can't deal with that. So I just like, however hard I want to work, that's how good I'm going to be.
You grew up in Indianapolis, right?
Correct.
That's where you serve as a full-time firefighter?
I did. I retired about a year and a half ago.
How long were you a firefighter for?
Almost 23 years.
Wow.
Yeah. The whole time I was in my fight career, the whole time you saw me, yeah, I was at the fire department. I was a firefighter for Indianapolis.
That's wild. That's wild. Thank you for your service. Do you find that your opponents change their game plan against you based on the fact that no one could finish you?
No, it was always funny. I'd always go in like the interviews beforehand. They'd be like, "I'm gonna be the first one to knock him out," and I'd always say, "Well, that was what the last guy said, and I'm pretty sure that's what the next guy's gonna say." You know, like, you ain't gonna knock me out, I promise you. Like, so I think that a lot of people just knew I was a durable guy. Like, if you were gonna beat me, you're gonna have to earn it. You're gonna have to go the full 3 rounds. You're gonna have to try and grind it out. I was always gonna try to finish you, but I mean, to be honest with you, once I started really, I made a conscious choice. To be like, I'm trying to submit everybody or knock them out. I don't ever want to go distance again. And once I started fighting like that, I think a lot of people, it was easier to try and hold me down and take me down because I was gonna. If you're aggressive, it's easier to take somebody down. You know, if I want to try and sit back and play a smart game, I can't do that, man. I did that once, and they couldn't take me down. I lost the decision. I'm like, I'm never doing that again. I'd rather go try to finish people, and if they take me down and hold me down, good for them. You know, but I'm gonna try and take everybody out. And when I did that, I got a lot more fans. People liked the way I fought, and it was a lot funner.
Yeah. You have over 20 submission finishes in your career. But you ended up becoming after your career was done, you went had 3 fights in bare knuckle. You finished 2 fights. One of them was a unanimous decision. You won. Can you tell us how different those were compared to MMA, considering you having over 20 wins via submission?
Well, you know, earlier in my career, I liked to submit people, but then I turned into pro boxing. I just really like to box people. The reason I would submit people then is I might land a punch and hurt somebody, and they would shoot in on me, or they would try and, even if they didn't get hurt, they would always want to take me down, and that would lead to a little bit more submissions. It was hard to get good knockouts. After you get a couple good knockouts, people are like, I want to stay and trade with this guy. So it became a little easier to get those submissions, but. No, I've been doing since about 2002. I've been a pro boxer, and when this bare knuckle came out, first I heard, I said, "What is wrong with people, man? Why would anybody do a bare knuckle fight?" And then I watched it, and I was like, "I'm gonna do a bare knuckle fight," you know. So I did a couple of them. I did one in England. It wasn't legal over here yet, so I did one. I was like, "Man, I wish they had this 5 years ago. I'd done a bunch of these." And then they legalized it here, and I love the BKFC, like the rules set and everything. I was like, "Man, I got to do some of these." And Then did a couple. Had to have like wrist surgery because my wrist had been messed up for years, and then just started doing all the commentating, and I just kind of fell in love with that too. So I feel like I get the best job in the world right now, just hanging out watching fights.
Yeah, I've noticed that you're doing commentating. That's great. I love when retired fighters take a spot in the production, you know. It's really important to hear the opinion of a former fighter, you know, as opposed to somebody who's never fought, like myself if I was commentating, right? Um what's
Here's
the
the thing: you got color commentating, and that just kind of describes what's happening. You don't have to be a fighter for that, but or the play-by-play, I say. Color commentating, yeah, you need to hear the fighter's point of view. So there's always a spot for somebody who hasn't had a fight. That's just called the play-by-play. So,
play-by-play? Got it. Which stat throughout your career are you most proud of?
oh, definitely the one that all the fights. And you look at my record. That's incorrect. I had about 20 fights, all wins that they came back and took off later. Because in the early '90s, late '90s, early 2000s, they went back and took away a bunch of wins because they weren't in sanctioned states. There was no sanctioned states hardly. You know what I mean? I mean, what do they mean sanctioned? But I had a bunch of wins they took away. But regardless, just never been able to be really finished in one of those fights. Like I said, I felt like I had 22 UFC fights because I had 2 on that Ultimate Fighter show. When
Yep.
in the house, and I was fighting UFC veterans, man. Those are real fights. I don't know what you're talking about. So, anyway,
Yeah.
I felt like I had 2 more, and 22 fights in UFC. Nobody able to stop me. I felt pretty happy about that one. I feel like, yeah, you're gonna fight me. I'm either gonna stop you or you ain't stopping me.
Yeah. I love that show. You know, it was great. You know, you made it to the final, lost the decision split, came back
Yeah.
and redeemed that win against Matt Serra, which is, I'm sure, a great part of your, journey.
I mean, it is and it's not. I mean, to be honest with you, one of my favorite people in the sport is Matt Serra. I really like him. I mean, it was no bad blood or no grudges about that. I be honest with you, I think you look at that fight, neither one of us really fought entertaining or well. There was too much pressure on. It's like the winner got a bunch of money and a title shot with St. Pierre, and the loser got nothing. So it's just we both just wanted to win so bad. We put on a boring fight and left it up to the judges. I think I was like, I'll never do that again. And I was so happy for him when he beat St. Pierre, though. Matt's my guy. I always want him to do well.
Yeah, that's what people don't know that, right? If that one finish that Sarah has on St. Pierre, that would have been you in that fight. If
Yeah.
the decision went your way, the fight prior.
I always thought so too, but I mean, you never know. What could have been will never be. I don't know. So I mean, I don't really care about that now. I'm happy for Matt, and I'm happy. After that fight, it was testing for me, man. It really bothered me. It really broke me down, and I had to come back and say, man, I owe my family a bunch of money. What am I going to do? I'm gonna win some bonuses. So then I went and changed my style, and I won a lot more bonuses, had a lot more fun, and made a lot more fans. So it worked out well for everybody.
Was that just based on family that had supported you up until that point?
It's more based on the fact they have 4 kids. I was working on the fire department. The wife wasn't working, so I'm responsible for paying for 6 people. And I don't know if you realize, but fire department doesn't pay quite enough to be supporting 6 people the right way. I don't think. And so my part-time job was fighting, and then I had an opportunity to make a bunch of money for everybody, and I blew it. So I feel like I owed them, but I owed them a lot.
Was that the lowest point in your career? If not, has there been any point in your career that you considered quitting?
Yeah, yeah. There was one. Okay, it's gonna sound funny. Like when I fought Nick Diaz in California in probably I don't know 2002, 2003, and I was supposed to fight Jake Fields. I was like, okay, I know this guy's. Let's fight this guy. And he got like some kind of sickness. So they're like, well, we found somebody else. His name's Nick Diaz. He won Grappler's Quest and he's undefeated. And this is that. And I was like, he's like 20 years old. I was like, man, whatever. I'll beat this little kid. I'm like, you don't put some little kid with me. I fought in UFC. I fight in Japan. And I fought him and I was like, this kid's not going away. And I lost the split decision. It was a close fight. It was a good fight. I busted his head open with a knee in the head. He busted me open at the end with a punch. It was hot out there. I was tired, but I mean, I lost a split decision. I remember sitting there. I was talking to my buddy Alex Steebling, who'd fought in Pride and everything. I was just like, man, I got kid. I'm like, I'm on the fire department. What am I doing here? I'm getting beat by these nobodies now. I'm getting beat by people who are nothing. How's this happening? About a year later, Nick's fighting in the UFC, and I didn't realize he was gonna be. I didn't realize he was gonna be one of the great fighters of all time. You know what I mean? So I was really depressed when it first happened, but then a little bit of time and perspective made me go, okay, he's pretty good. But you don't know that early. You think you can beat by a 20-year-old. You're like, what just happened to me, man? I used to be a top level fighter, and like, is it over for me already? But then come to find out, I still had a lot of good fights left in me.
Yeah. You have a lot of rare stats actually. Besides the fact that you've been a firefighter your whole career, right? Besides the fact that you've never been finished besides two doctor stoppages. All these rare, right? But this one I find very rare right here. Your last 6 fights in the UFC, you went 5-1. And we
Yeah.
never see that. Usually anyone's last fights in the UFC is like mostly losses, right? In those 6 fights, you beat Matt Brown, Matt Serra, and Dan Hardy. Um, can you walk us through the mindset of you had it in those years?
Man, like I said, I felt like I was definitely hitting on all cylinders at that point. I was trying to make my last title run. I was really excited, and I don't want to take anything away from that. The person who beat me in that one fight, but you know, it was stupid of me. I should have pulled out of the fight. I have a sickness. I can't pull out of fights, and I did it, and I ran out of gas. I lost. I was just like, good for him. He got that victory, but like, I was supposed to fight Carlos Condit, and I felt like whoever won that would have got a title. So I'm like, I'm never pulling out of this fight. It got changed up, and I did it. But whatever, man. They won fair and square. So I just know that I felt like I was really at the top of my game. I was on a high note, and you know when I beat Dan Hardy, went out on top. It was a good feeling, man. And I was always like, I have a good feeling after fighting. I felt like so many of the fighters I know, so many, like you said, you lose 5 out of your last 6. Nobody wins 5 of the last 6. So they're on a downhill slide, and then they get forced out of the game. I didn't get forced out of the game. I went out on my terms, and so I'm always very happy with how my career went. I know a lot of people who have a bitter taste in their mouth at the end. So I always think it's important. I've talked to several people. I'm like, man, if you want to have a couple fights in bare knuckle, you need to come out and go out on your terms, go out the right way. You decide when you quit. You don't let them tell you when to quit. And uh, like I said, I came out. It was hard for me to do because my MMA career ended so great. I came out, had a couple bare knuckle fights. I won 3 of those, and then I rode off into the sunset again. So I got it to happen twice. It's pretty nice.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Moving on to some current MMA, Chris. Islam Makhachev's dominance. How do you see Islam's style versus past champs like George St. Pierre at your time?
I mean, it's pretty similar actually. I think St. Pierre's a little more fluid on his feet, but he was just dominant with pressure and taking people down. I think Islam's a little bit better at when he does get people down. I think he's a little more. He looks to finish a little bit more, and um, I don't know. He's a tough guy to deal with. Those guys from that Dagestan region are over in that area, man. They're just a different animal there. It's always funny. I remember back in like the year 1998 or 1999, I was watching like Mark Kerr and Mark Coleman fight, and I remember I said to a friend, I said, "Who's ever gonna beat these guys? They're unstoppable." I mean, it's so funny because then people learn how to deal with these wrestlers who because the first it was the jiu-jitsu guys beating everybody. Then you got these big monster wrestlers who learn how to not get submitted. Well, you can't beat those guys. How little I knew, because then people would learn how to make them stay on their feet, and then they knock them out. And then the game is this elevator. We have to be so good at everything. People will figure out their style at some point. They'll be able to stop a couple more takedowns. They'll be able to beat them on the feet. I figure it's just going to take some time to figure out that style and really they'll develop whole camps and game plans against that style. Once they do, it'll be beatable just like everything else is.
Yeah, great take. The first chink in their armor we've seen is Merab beating Umar. So that's the first one we've seen. So we didn't see Khabib lose. So we haven't seen Islam. Chris, who's the fighter today that reminds you of yourself?
That's good, man. I mean, I really like. I mean, I wouldn't say they remind me of myself in this instance, but I really appreciate a guy like Gatey, man, like a guy who's not gonna win them all, but who's gonna be there and fight every second. You're gonna know you're gonna fight. I wouldn't say I'm comparable to him, but I like people with that mindset. I like people who are gonna bring it, win, lose, or draw. Like they'll go on their shield, there's no problem with it. But I definitely like to see people like that. We need more people like that in the sport. What I don't like is people who have the idea like win at all costs. You know, I mean, I don't want to see a boring fight. I mean, that's what I love about the bare knuckle stuff I do. People, they come to fight, man. You're gonna put on a fun fight. You're gonna have to. Um, I watch that, and I was watching MMA sometimes, and the guy's just trying to out there throw a couple of jabs, like shoot on a single leg, try to hold you down for, I held him down for 2.5 minutes, and he didn't. So I went. And it's like I don't want to see that stuff, man. I don't see people getting after it. So that's what I like.
Common with the American fan base, I would say. Um, if you could make one major change in combat sports to protect fighters or improve the game, what would it be?
To protect him, I would probably have to say you have to go with the weight cutting issue where you do some hydration testing or whatnot, like they kind of do in one. Try to make it where you're not going to cut his weight. I don't think the thing that people realize is what they're doing in their bodies, and I think a lot of people are going to find out in the future they're going to have. I mean, you might have a lot of fighters with like on dialysis because they're going to have kidney problems when they get older. You can't lose 40 pounds regularly. It's just not good for you, man. So I think we're going to find out that would probably help fighter safety a lot. As far as improving the sport, I think what I would like to do is go back to the old school. We talked about the pride rules. Pride rules. You made it to where it wasn't necessarily who won one round; it was the overall fight. But not only that, if you're not trying to finish the fight, I'm gonna give you this yellow card, and you're gonna lose 10% of your purse. Ooh, no, I don't want to. I don't lose my money. So these guys are gonna actively try and finish people. You know what I mean? I mean, personally, I like it if you could knee somebody to the head on the ground or do something like that because you know what? They don't lay there and take knees to the head. They roll over and promote and get into a scramble and make somebody, and then you could submit them. You're not just going to sit there and eat 10 knees if you're any good. You might happen to once, like, oh, I got to move. So I think the more things you can do, like you could in Pride, the more that will promote action. And I want to see more action in a fight. And like I said, a good fighter's not going to lay there and take knees. They're just not going to do that.
Well, that's consistent with the fighter you mentioned, Justin Gaethje. You enjoy war. You enjoy nothing held back.
Like I said, I'd never seen one of his fights I didn't like. If he's fighting on the card, I'd be like, well, that should at least be one good fight. Let's watch. I'm more likely to tune in. Half the time, I'm looking at a lot of these cards, and I just like, there'll be 22 fighters. I know 3 of them. Just like,
Yeah.
If I see his name, and I'm like, okay, he'll be on a good one. Let's watch it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree with you. One of my favorite fighters myself. And Chris, I just want to thank you for taking the time, coming on our show, and we really it was an honor. Can you tell us about your podcast and where the fans can get connected with that?
I mean, Lights Out podcast. I haven't really been doing much with that anymore. Just too busy with the bare knuckle stuff. So, I think Mike Davis has kind of took it over. It's the MMA detective, but he does a lot of history dives. I'm mainly right now just enjoying my life with the BKFC. So if you guys haven't been watching that, you're missing out because that's about as entertaining as it gets. 2 weeks ago, we had 9 fights, 9 stoppages. Last weekend, we had 11 fights, 9 stoppages. 2 went the distance. But I mean, man, that's what 20 fights, 18 of them were stoppages. Man, you
That's
can't beat
wild.
that, man. It's amazing. It's so much fun and it's fast paced and people come to bang. That's it. I mean, if you want to see good, entertaining fights, you got to watch BKFC.
All right, guys, you heard it there. You heard it from Chris Lights Out Lytle, a real legend. If you want to see some violence, tune into BKFC. He'll be the lead commentating, and that's where you can hear more from Chris. Chris, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me on, bub.
Wearing a T-shirt that says "Never Made."
I believe him. I think he's telling the truth.